Hey guys, it's Faye from Solar Flow and I am back with another video. Today's topic is the unfortunately short life and untimely death of little JonBenét Ramsey. So if this sounds like an interesting topic to you, please stick around, and if not, I will catch you in another video. So first of all, this is a bit of a heavy topic, so proceed with caution. Now, what's very, very interesting about little JonBenét Ramsey is that, first of all, she was a beauty queen. Very, very unusual for such a little girl at such a young age to be so poised and to compete, not only compete, but also win beauty pageants. So when I first sat down and I was receiving the information on her, this came in as something that was particularly notable. And with it came in that she was a designer baby. And I was like, okay, that's interesting. Can I get clarification on what a designer baby is? What was shown to me was that little JonBenét was born to a mother by the name of Patsy Ramsey and her father, I think his name was John Ramsey. This was John's second marriage. He had previously been married once before and had two older children from his first wife. Now, Patsy Ramsey herself, JonBenét's mother, was a former beauty queen. I'm not sure if she had actually won, but she had definitely competed in beauty pageants. And that came in as very, very notable. And what was shown to me was that she was specifically chosen for this genetic kind of breeding purposes. And first of all, the fact that she was, as a former beauty pageant contestant herself, she was beautiful. And also being that she was a former beauty pageant contestant herself, was more likely to allow or even guide her daughter into being in beauty pageants. And that's very much what had happened in this case. JonBenét was incredibly young to be competing in beauty pageants, though. I think she had started at the age of like 3 or 4, which is ridiculously young. Because here's the thing, anybody that has kids know a few things. First of all, they're very, very full of energy. They're rambunctious. I would not necessarily use the word poised to explain a child, right? We would say lively, energetic, spunky, vivacious, not poised. So the fact alone that JonBenét Ramsey was very, very poised is very notable. And when I was looking at her poise, what was coming into me was this was the family business. She was a designer baby and this was the family business. Okay, that is definitely very, very curious, because when I would think of what it means to have a family business, I would, let's say, reference like farmers from 100 years ago. And how farmers would have a lot of children because they needed farm hands. Or let's say in modern day times, a man or a woman opens up a business and she's doing really, really well with it. And then she's going to bring her own children into it so they can keep the family business going when she retires or he retires. So that's kind of more the way I would reference what a family business is. So this is interesting. She's a beauty pageant contestant. Her mother was one too. That's an interesting reference for a family business. So I delve a little bit deeper into it. And what was shown to me was to look at JonBenét's energy and how poised she was when she was competing, because that's really what's very notable. And as we've kind of explored in some of my other videos, specifically my video on the music industry, one of the ways that the upper members of the club would siphon the energy off of the lower members in the club is through a particular sexual act that they would engage in. Because that's a way of connecting into somebody's their chakra system, which is where you have something called kundalini, which is your, let's say a way of looking at it would be your energy, your expression of your soul's energy. And it can be connected into when it's accessed through the backside. And then I was like, oh my God, okay, I think I see where this is going. So that was one way of, first of all, keeping JonBenét's energy in a more controllable way and to keep her so poised. That's number one. Number two, what's this business with the family, it being the family business? So I was again directed back to Patsy Ramsey, her mother. And again, not researching my videos, just going very much off of what I remember from this happening years ago, was my spidey senses, and this was well before like I knew about I had some idea of what gifts were, but before I understood that I actually had them. But I remember watching the interviews with Patsy Ramsey and feeling like my spidey sense was telling me something's incongruent here. Right? And it's not a judgment call on the way that she was presenting herself, right? Because when people have undergone a trauma, everybody is going to show up differently because trauma affects us all differently. But here's the thing. If somebody has been traumatized in the past and then they are re-traumatized on an ongoing basis in the future, they're going to show up than somebody who has maybe never had like a really, really big trauma or is not being re-traumatized in the same way on an ongoing basis. So when I was watching Patsy, again, not a judgment in the way that she was showing up, everybody mourns differently, everybody interviews differently, but my spidey sense was telling me that we are not getting the full picture here. And I forgot about it for years. But in coming into this and looking at it and realizing, well, if this was what was happening to JonBenét to keep her energy more demure, and this is the family business. So I was starting to kind of like connect the dots in how the information was when it was coming into me. So I was starting now to understand, oh, I get it. So what happened to JonBenét had happened to Patsy as well. That's why it was the family business, not necessarily the competing in beauty pageants, but this was maybe what it was. And the competing in beauty pageants was secondary. Now, to that end, I also came to understand that JonBenét competing in these beauty pageants was her calling card. And what I mean by calling card is just like models in the modeling industry have something called a tier sheet. And a tier sheet is like a photograph of them, and it shows them like all natural without any makeup, and then it will also show or mention other notable campaigns that they have been in with pictures of how they were able to transform for those other notable campaigns. So it's just kind of a way of like showing the diversity of a particular model. That's a tier sheet. It's a model's calling card or business card that is sent out to campaigns or agencies that are looking for models for a particular job. JonBenét competing in these beauty pageants was her calling card. It was a way of letting other families or other people who engage in these kind of activities to know that she was for hire. Sorry, that's what came through. So, and here's another thing to keep in mind. This family is and was back then a higher class family, let's say. Right? So they're not like bagging groceries down in the local 7-Eleven. I don't think they even bag groceries there. But like they're not working, the cashier at a 7-Eleven. So the father, John, was a very well-to-do businessman. And he, which we're actually going to discuss a little bit later on, that year alone had actually earned a very, very large six-figure bonus for the company that he worked in. I'm not even sure if it was his. So this is not like a low-level family. This is a high upper-class family that's in the club. Just so you understand, okay? They're engaging in these kind of activities. That's already one surefire way of knowing if a family is in the club. Plus, she was, and this is not also to imply that other children that are put in beauty pageants are put in it knowing that, oh, now their kid is like in some database of kids that are available to it. It's for families that are in the know. It's for other high-class families that are in the know and know that this is the calling card, that this is her business card, so to say. Because they were an upper-class family, and there's other upper-class families that liked playthings that were in upper-class families. So this was her calling card. This was the family's way of letting other people who are upper-class and in the family know she was available. Just gonna leave it there. You can take out of that what you will. Now, when it came to her passing, when it came to her death, there's a few things that are very, very particularly notable. The first one is that it happened on Christmas. The second one is actually her name. And here's why. Think about any other missing person or child death that you may be aware of, that maybe you read like in People magazine, because People magazine loves to cover these things, right? How many of them, you might remember certain things about it. Do you remember the names? Because I can tell you I don't. But JonBenét Ramsey, I remember her name. And that was done by design. So first of all, JonBenét is a combination of the father's name. I don't know where Benet came from, but John is the father's name, and she became like a French version of it, JonBenét. Very unusual name. I've never heard that name prior to this, and I've never heard the name post this, unless it is specifying this specific little girl, JonBenét Ramsey. So very, very notable. So her name was chosen intentionally to be memorable and to be notable. Now, this happening on Christmas was done for the same reason. And here's why. First of all, if you think about what Christmas is, it's a time when a lot of us are, and it's not even if it's it's not my religion, but going to school or working, Christmas Day is you're always off from work. And the day before Christmas, everyone's getting out of work early because it's Christmas Eve. So it's a time where a lot of us are, first of all, detached from other responsibilities that we may have. And it's also a time that we're spending a lot more of our time with our family. So if it's your holiday and you're celebrating Christmas, you have Christmas Eve. I don't know if you guys have like a meal on Christmas Eve or if that's Christmas Day, but there's a lot of family time. And then the next morning, you're spending time with your family, you're opening gifts, then you have a holiday family meal. So it's very much a family-oriented time of year. That is very much to juxtapose just how jarring this is, because it's hearkening in anybody that was aware of this, a sense of, oh my God, and a sense of fear, and a sense of rapt attention, where our attention is all directed at this. Oh my God, there's this little girl named JonBenét, she was missing, then she was found, now she's dead. Oh my God, it happened on Christmas, what her family must be going through. And if you are aware of what louche is, that is very much why this was done by design. It was an enormous collection of louche. Now, louche is our emotions, our attention, our energy, our focus. And louche is what is the fuel for the beings on the astral realm. So when something like this happens that is so big, so notable, it captures the entire country's attention. Not just the country, I would say. This was like worldwide. That is very much a massive, enormous production of louche that we are producing, and that is then collected by the beings on the astral realm. So two very notable reasons that it happened on Christmas. It's, first of all, we're all with our family, so our attention is not diverted elsewhere. So when this story broke, we were all like glued to the TV about it. And then it was also to really shake up and produce the max amount of louche that this happened on Christmas. So her name was notable, and that this happened on Christmas was highly notable as well. Okay, so now what was the exact circumstances with her death? Okay, so first of all, the police had bungled very, very badly the case. First, it was considered, I think, a missing person because the police came in and they searched the house, right? That was after the family had said they had searched the house, they didn't find her. So first of all, it was considered a missing person. My heat just went on. I'm sorry, guys, if you're hearing that. I don't know if you are, but it was, first of all, that it was considered a missing person and not a homicide straight away. Great way to bungle an investigation. Because here's the thing. Police, I know that they had said this was bungled from top to bottom. The police were not actually incompetent. This was done intentionally. And here's why. As I had said earlier, this was a upper class family that was in the club. JonBenét's death was not an accident. It was actually a sacrifice. And it was a sacrifice because it was considered very, very, very auspicious when a upper class family in the club chooses to sacrifice one of their own. This was a way of, first of all, assuring and guaranteeing that the family was going to climb the rungs of the ladder, so to say, in the club. So they were now going to have an elevated status. This was not done for money. This was done for status and to ascend higher in the club. Because it was also considered auspicious that a upper class family was sacrificing one of their own, there were a lot of people that were also in the club at the crime scene, before it was a crime scene, were at this site where she was killed. Now, I actually do not see that she was killed in the home. It was in somebody else's home, or I'm not sure, another location nearby, because her body was moved. But it's not just people in the club that are like businessmen. You could have people in the club that are maybe politicians. They could even be police officers. And this was very auspicious, so there were a lot of people that were there to witness this auspicious event. I know it's not auspicious for you and me, we're not in the club, but for people like this that have a different value set, this was considered auspicious. I can't even pretend to understand it. I can just report what I have been shown. But this was considered very auspicious. So there were a lot of people that were in the club in this town that were there. That included police. So if you're in the club with someone else is in the club, you're going to look out for them. And that is one of the reasons why the crime scene, first of all, was so badly bungled, and then all of the evidence was so absolutely corrupted. Now, for anybody who has ever watched a CSI or any sort of a crime show, you will know that when there is a crime scene, what the police do is they want to make sure that they're not corrupting it, first of all. So to that end, what they will do is they will put on little paper booties over their shoes. Then they'll put on what looks like a smock over their clothing, like a paper smock. Then they also put this smock type thing over their hair as a hairnet. And then they put that on prior to going into a crime scene. And then as they are leaving the crime scene, all of those items are taken off of their body and put into an evidence bag. And then it's labeled with the officer's name. And it's done like that, so that way later on, when they are comparing all of the evidence that's collected at a crime scene, they're also making sure, oh, well, we found Officer Peter Pan's hair sample there, but they're going to understand why his hair sample was there. It was because he had been one of the investigators that were there. They had his evidence, they had his own DNA, and they had other pieces of the crime scene that were on like his, his shoe booty coverings or whatever it is. So all of the investigators that are looking into it, they are covered specifically for this reason, so that a crime scene cannot be contaminated. But because this was not considered right away a homicide, but it was a missing person, the police got in there and they corrupted the fuck out of that home, because they were not wearing the protective gear or anything like that. They were bringing elements from outside into the home. There was police officers' hair samples and whatever samples and fingerprint samples and everything everywhere. So it was very much not because the police were inept, but it was because those that were in the club were protecting their own. That's number one. Number two, it also makes it extremely difficult to not, if we're already saying that a lot of the evidence was corrupted, that's going to make it later on very, very difficult to secure evidence that could, let's say, stand up in court, or that could lead to the successful arrest and conviction of whoever was involved in this. It was so badly corrupted, there was no way that that was ever going to happen. And again, it's because club members look out for and protect other club members. They were there when this happened, and they were probably just as complicit in it as the person who had actually done the killing of her. So yeah, they were not inept. It was bungled very, very intentionally. Okay. What did I want to say? Something else about okay, so here's the thing also. Just like we've kind of discussed in other videos as well, that according to the club members' laws of karma, they have to tell you or show you what they are going to do or what they've been doing. Because then it absolves them, according to their laws of karma anyway, it absolves them of any guilt or wrongdoing going forward. So if you're, let's say, we've talked about this too, if you're watching a movie and this movie is showing you people having magical powers, you're not going to think, oh, hey, yeah, that's because we have magical powers and we just don't know about it. We're going to think this is fiction, this is fake, this is someone's imagination on the screen. But they're actually revealing to you what's going on because it absolves them according to their laws of karma. So if you see it, but you choose not to believe it, or if you choose to think that it's just entertainment, that's on you, but that's not on them. So it was released and revealed to the media that she had actually been sexually molested prior to her death. That was a reveal. It was done intentionally because here's the thing, it didn't say how much prior to her death. It didn't say how many times or how often. It just said that this happened prior to her death. So it was a reveal. Because again, she was not killed because someone had somehow in this upper class neighborhood got into the home, taken her out of it, molested her sexually, and then killed her so she wasn't going to tell about it. That's not what happened. So them revealing that and releasing it was to absolve them through their laws of karma. Now you know what had happened to her prior to her death. Sure, it's incomplete because it's not telling you the full scope and breadth and duration and length and all of that, but now you know. Was she actually even sexually molested? I don't know. That could have happened, but if that did, it wasn't the primary purpose of her being killed. Remember, this was an auspicious event. in the club to elevate the status of the family. Now, that's going to raise a lot of questions about the family itself. So, first of all, were they all in on it? So, I'm going to I have to find a creative way of navigating all of this. So, just like earlier, we had said that the mother was shut down because this was something that had happened to her. And because she was shut down, it's easy to program different, she had like an on switch and an off switch. And she also had like an alter, at least one. So she was very much energetically shown to me shut down and in a almost robotic energy. So there was periods in her life, great periods in her life, where she was actually shut down energetically. And then there was times when like her switch had been flipped, and now she was on. And those were the times when they had to do like community events or like things in the neighborhood or host parties or go to work events or blah, blah, blah. So she was activated energetically at those times. So she was shut down for a lot of her own actual life as well. So I did not see that she was actually aware. She knew her family was in the club, but she was not aware that she was chosen by John Ramsey for breeding purposes for designer baby. And she was not aware that this was going to happen to JonBenét. So let's take that and put that aside. Now, the way the father's energy came into me was very interesting. So he liked to engage in high-stake games of cat and mouse. And what that means is he thrived in, I don't know what he did. I think he was like maybe a businessman or something. But he would thrive in, let's say, for example, doing very, very risky deals. Because he didn't have a lot of emotion inside of him. What he would feel was adrenaline. But being an upper class member in the club kind of precluded him from engaging in a lot of like risky behavior that you might associate with someone who's not like a high class businessman, right? Like, I don't know, he's not going on a motorcycle and doing bungee jumping or like nonsense like that, right? Like those are things that might, for example, I've been on motorcycles. They're kind of freaky. I mean, yeah, it's exhilarating. That's a good way of looking at it. Okay, exhilarating. I've been on a motorcycle one time. Would I go on it again? No. Because it was too much exhilaration for me. But for someone that is perhaps shut down, they need more exhilaration. They need that adrenaline rush because that might be the only thing that they're feeling. But because he's an upper tiered member, he gets his exhilaration in different ways. So he's engaging in maybe risky behavior, but it's respected because of what he does and because of who he is. It's not looked down upon and frowned upon. It's more like, wow, he's gutsy. He has balls. Like he's going into these deals where there's maybe high risk. So that's more a respectable way where he can channel his energy. Now, he also loved this cat and mouse aspect that was going on with the media, because he needed to deflect the attention away while appearing as if he's a family man and he's upright and he's this just great all-around guy, right? When the FBI became involved, that was like next level adrenaline for him, because the FBI, let's say, are considered to be at the very, very top tier of like investigative police work. They started like the profiling unit. They have databases where they can track all of these things and they can, whatever it is that they have, right? So they're very much considered to be like the top tier. And then once like the profilers got involved, that he was completely overlooked This was like the most massive amounts of like his own personal internal louche. It was like at max level because he was pulling a fast one and nobody knew, not even the FBI profilers, the media didn't know, the police that were not in on it didn't know, the FBI didn't know. So he was just like flying high energetically. The mother, again, very, very shut down. Interestingly enough, also as well, was that we're talking about the fact that the father is, let's say, except for adrenaline, maybe it doesn't feel as much. The mother was shut down. JonBenét was energetically siphoned off, right? This also happened to JonBenét's older brother. I think his name is Burke. I think he was 2 years older than JonBenét. So just like what was happening to JonBenét was also happening to Burke. Now, with that, I'm also going to say that Burke is a highly, highly, highly sensitive and intuitive soul. And after JonBenét had crossed over, she actually spent a lot of time sitting next to Burke when he was sleeping and spending time with him when he was playing. And because he was so intuitive and he was so sensitive, he actually, just like a lot of us when our gifts started to come in, freaked the fuck out and he thought he was losing his mind. And it was only sometime later that he could start to understand that he wasn't losing his mind and he wasn't going crazy, and that JonBenét was making a choice to be with him and to stay with him and to comfort him. Because here's why. Burke, when these things were happening with JonBenét, they were happening to him too. Sometimes they were side by side. Sometimes one would be taken or the other would be taken and the other one wasn't there. But Burke really felt, being the older brother, that it was his responsibility to protect JonBenét. Now, it doesn't matter that he was a little boy, and it doesn't matter that he could not even protect himself. This was happening. But he really, really took it upon himself and internalized it, that he wished he could have protected her as a big brother. It brought him some sense of comfort, because here's the thing, if it was happening side by side and they were there, then at least it was happening to them together, so he could, like, even though he couldn't stop it and he couldn't protect her, but he could be there with her. He could be there for her. Unfortunately, he couldn't actually stop anything. And yeah, there were times when she was taken and he would see that and he knew what was going to happen to her. He felt really, really powerless because he couldn't stop it, but he knew. So that is why JonBenét made this choice after she crossed over to spend a lot of time with him, because she wanted him to know, just like you were there for me when this was going on, I'm still here with you. I haven't gone anywhere. I'm here with you. And she's just trying to bring comfort to him with her presence, being there with him, and definitely a lot more like right afterwards. She was right, and for years afterwards, she's there with him, sitting by his bed, keeping him company while he sleeps, and staying with him when he's playing and when he's doing things, just so he would, because they used to like play together. So just a way of her letting him know, you were always there for me as my big brother. Just because I'm not on this side, I'm still here with you and I'm still here for you. And she is spending a lot of time trying to heal him by bringing forth pure divine energy and pure divine consciousness to heal his body and to heal his soul. He has had a really, really hard time. He has had a really hard time with the father for reasons that I hope that you've extrapolated from this video. He's had a really hard go at it, but she has continued to come through and to be there with him and to spend time with him and to comfort him. So that's what I got for little JonBenét Ramsey and her family. hard topic. So yeah, maybe consider smudging yourself. Not like don't go outside in the mud and like roll around, not that kind of smudge. But like if you have sage, like smudge yourself, smudge your space, smudge your phone or your computer or however you're watching this. And as always, guys, I hope that this was perhaps thought-provoking or interesting, or that it resonated in some way. And if it hasn't, that's okay. Take what has and leave the rest behind. And as always, until next time, A, stay in the high vibration. B, don't go joining the club. I'll see you next time, guys.